what I'm saying. That is true. Now, these men were talking to Abraham. Now, Abraham then thought that these men were, prophets at that time. I don't know, strangers are being considered as spirits of God. I don't know. But that's how it happened. And so when later, as it wasn't happening, then Sarah had to suggest his husband to sleep with his maid to have a child Ishmael, and they called it child Ishmael. Then he became insolent. But before that, the story will tell you that Abraham was traveling through the place, and settled somewhere, and he went to some place like another town. It's a whole lot of stories. And he met this one of the king, and because of Sarah being beautiful, he had to lie to the king, tell her that Sarah was his sister or something like that. Before the king will end up, is that I think something of that nature, where the king inquired of Sarah to be, because if he knows that he's married to the Sarah, and Sarah is so beautiful, the king will kill Abraham. And so Abraham doesn't want to die. Of course he doesn't want to die. So he said, he told his wife to tell the king that he is his brother. And realistically, he is his brother because he's his cousin. They married to cousins, so he's his somehow cousin. He's a brother to him in some sense. So it's not really a lie, but the story suggests that he made that suggestion because even if his brother is married to him, but he didn't want them to know about the marriage part, or not the marriage, the unionship part, that he has been blessed with him. They two share life together, and the king even gave Abraham lots of ornaments and all kinds of nice things. Presented those things to Abraham because he said his sister is very nice, and he sort of wanted to sort of be with his sister because so he gave Abraham order. Abraham took those things, I think, all the way, but he was still afraid to accept Sarah to be his wife, not for the king's sake, the king's anger or the king's, But lo and behold, the king was not actually that type or that kind of person. But from a distance, they knew it was in those times. I think that was what was happening. So this story happened way before that, So Sarah had to admit to all these things, and the king had to find out some way that he's his husband. And he gave him that. Why do you lie to me? You know he's your companion. If you haven't known, I would have ended up, sleeping with her, and she completely belongs to you, and that would have been wrong, and maybe your God would have been angry with me. That's wrong thing for you to do, and all that. And that story passed, and somehow Abraham moved on with lots of things. That's how Abraham was acquiring his properties and things that he was getting through all these things, That story passed ago, but the main story I was trying to suggest is somewhere along the story as we'll be going through. And the maid of Sarah has got a child called Ishmael, and now the maid has become so stubborn and disrespectful to Sarah, and Sarah now is regretting about his decision of making his husband having this child with a maid. I mean, in today's world, what will happen? Madame will give, because he have a child. People go and adopt children. Women go and put money out for somebody to get a sperm or a seed to fertilize themselves. Because the idea of, having a straightforward birth with somebody, I don't know whether it's a problem or they don't get somebody to have that. So they have to go and buy sperm to avoid all kinds of problems. I don't know what is happening today. Meanwhile, there are so many people out there, and yet still, when we see each other, we cannot stand each other. There's something inside us that makes us always grow into provoked states that you can't stand your fellow person. That is something which is happening. I experience it a lot. And most time there are reasons anyway There's spiritual reasons and there are physical reasons. Now, if we're able to have peace within ourselves, both ends, we can always have that. Because there's something that always triggers these things. We haven't recognized that. That is what this video is also bringing out. If we're able to recognize the things that trigger this provocative attitude that makes us hate each other or can't stand each other, that one has to decide to go and buy sperm to have a child, or a man has to go and then donate a sperm in order to have a woman's womb to bring that child. It means like Michael Jackson doing what Michael Jackson was doing. It's like you don't want to touch a woman and a woman doesn't want to touch a man, but yet you want to have a child, but he doesn't want the man. It's like you are quarreling with each other and you cannot stand each other, but yet you want to have the child anyway because everybody is having that, so you also want to have it. I mean, do you care about that child when that child grew up, how he was brought up? I mean, do you care that there won't be any attachment? I don't know the risk that we are we have not really come to realize that. Even some go to extent of the cloning thing, which is I don't know what we are ending up, but I just hope we think things through. I mean, if we change and we understand things better, that's what I believe. And as I'm going to keep explaining, if people take things seriously and acknowledge the things I point out, add one or two together, freeze their mind, release their mind of all those things that are unnecessary that they keep holding on to. And we start embracing life, embracing our true nature of who we really are. It's not what we are because we are naked. I'm not talking about the story about nakedness. I'm not talking that story about the Quran which says clay or where we come from. Who we really are. You standing there as a person, who you are, recognizing who you are, with clothes or without clothes, whichever you are, that's what you really are. Not what your culture has fed you with, not what your religion has in tune to become or has fed you with. No. Those are the things that are critical, that ruins our life. That's what I'm trying to suggest. It may have some peaceful influence and be presenting some peaceful things, but entirely it ends up revealing to you that of which makes you very violent, very hateful. It shows you your enemy. You don't need to have enemy. That person doesn't need to have enemy. We don't need enemies in our life. But this is what gives us the knowledge of enemy. This is what gives us the knowledge of destruction. This is what gives us the knowledge of protection. This is what gives us the knowledge of selfishness. This is what the knowledge that gives us knowledge of becoming successful. This is what gives us the knowledge of becoming poor, or what we are that makes us so uncomfortable and hate whatever we are, or sort of reject whatever state that it should be, make us become so unsatisfied with what we are, or what we are, whatever state or whatever situation we may be in. These are the things that tells us that, hey, this is better than this. Why do you stay in this manner? You need this. These are the things that keeps the confusion, and that's what the process for you to gradually realize what you need to realize. And the things that people get caught up with, you will not get caught up with it. The things that entraps people, you will not be trapped into it. That is what I'm trying to say. That is what all this is about. And so let us be very, very careful about what we are teaching, or what I'm trying to open up, the points I'm bringing out, so that when we get into the peaceful state, something really solid can be assured in our life. Abraham sleeping with his wife, his maid, is with the issue today. But why should that be the case? But even if he slept, it was okay at that time. God did not sanctify, and kill Abraham and say, hey, you are fornicating. If fornication was there, God from the very beginning knew about fornication before he wrote about 10 commandments. So God would have stopped Abraham. But even God blessed, and he's not the only one God blessed. So David and Uriah, according to the genealogy in Matthew 1, chapter 1, Matthew chapter 1, all the way through to the end, to the 18, the genealogy to verse 18